Sorry.
All right.
Hello, good evening. I'd like to call to order the July 21st, 2025 Academic Achievement Governance Meeting. Our first agenda item is the 2025-2026 Academic Curriculum for English 9 through 12. And are we planning to, I don't know, Dr. Pasquinelli, I know is online. Are we planning to talk through what we have here first, or should we jump right in? Maybe explain what we've got before us here, and then maybe we can start with Academic English 9 after that.
Okay, sounds good. Studies. So all those hyperlinks, they're not active in board docs, but if you actually go into the program of studies, you can click on those links and it gives you a nice description of each of those courses. Again, program of studies. Tonight we're talking about the board approved curriculum that goes with each of those courses. So what's in front of the board is really just an overall sequence of the student experience through the lens more of resources, not necessarily the curriculum. So the images that the board has in front of them, we wanted you to get a chance to see not just one course in isolation, but really to look at the whole program across grades 9 through 12. So you can see, for example, if a student enters 9th grade taking the Academic English 9 courses, then the table in front of you, you see all the resources that are used to support the curriculum. Again, we're talking on the table, those are core text resources. They're not the curriculum, but they are those resources that support the learning goals for the students. And then it progresses to each grade level and then each pathway level. So you get a chance to see, for example, if a student would move from Academic 9 and move to Honors English 10, then you would see the resources that are being used to support Honors 10, and then if a student stays in that pathway through the rest of their time at the high school, then they could culminate in AP 11 and AP 12. We don't have all of the text for those books because there's so many different choices that the students have in addition to the required readings of those two courses. But we thought it was a nice visual to think about the entire experience that our students have at Pine-Richland. We have some data that we included in a couple of the attachments that we can jump to at some point, but we're proud of the program. Our students are finding success within our ELA program. We've talked about the success rate for our Keystone exams over time, growth and achievement. They've really been doing a great job with that, and that's an attribute to not just the 9th grade curriculum, but obviously the K to 8 as well, and all those other experiences that the students have. But that English 9 is an important part because it is tightly aligned to the Keystone exam as well. That would be the eligible content. So that's the overview of what's in front of the board. In the agenda, if you scroll down, Sean, a little bit more to the attachment list, I'll just talk through those quickly and let everybody know what's attached to this. So if you can scroll down, always sit down, or there you go. So the top one, those are the list of courses that we're talking about tonight. The language arts and the academic are the same. So if you don't see the language arts courses there, the curriculum and resources to support are the same for those. The second link is to our program of studies. Everybody has seen that, but we thought we'd put that in if anybody wants to reference any of the courses through the program of studies. The most important part of the program of studies is to see the pathways, and we're proud of the pathway options, not just even the core courses, but you can see like all the elective options that we offer students in our ELA program. The third attachment is our course enrollment history, so you get a chance to see the percentage of students that are taking each of the courses each year. I think we have that back to the 21-22, let me see if that's right. 21-22 school year. So that's the third attachment. And in the final attachment, we put together a core text and kind of anthology overview, so you could see a bigger picture. We've talked about Lexile levels as a quantitative measure in the past of some of our resources. We also have a qualitative measure that our teachers have used to evaluate resources, and they did an evaluation of that as well. So we can pull that up at some point and look at the text complexity, more of a bigger picture. And again, you can see how, as students progress from grade 9 to 10, 11, and 12, how the complexity of the learning experiences increases throughout their time.
Any questions about that for Dr. Pasquinelli?
I have a
do have a
question.
question.
I'm sorry. Can't pull my things like stuck to the table. I see the, like the number of students, that are picking English 9 or honors English. Do we have data, or is it somewhere like what our enrollment is in some of the elective courses for English?
We would have that. I don't
Okay.
have it handy, but we know, percentage and how many are taking.
Yeah,
those
just curious.
courses.
Just out of curiosity, if we had that info.
We do.
Okay. I figured you did.
Lisa?
Dr. Pasquinelli, do you have the data? I'm looking at the English course enrollment attachment. Do you have the
Okay, let's pull that up just so
Yeah.
everybody else. There you
Okay.
go. Thank you.
Do you have the data for like 1920? I'm just wondering if we had a dip in 21-22 because of COVID, or were those numbers about the same as 21-22 or lower?
I don't have it in front of me. We could get it easily, but that's not something that we
You have? Okay.
prepared. So I don't have the answer for that.
Okay.
But if you just keeping this up for a moment, really excited about the trend that we're seeing with the students challenging themselves. And I think Dr. H is there. He can even talk a little bit more about this. The number of students that are challenging themselves with the AP 11 and AP 12, you see those numbers going up, over time, and again, the success rate of students taking those exams is high too. I mean, they're doing a great job. We've got a lot of students challenging themselves, which we're proud of. But we also realize that you need pathways. I mean, some students' readiness when they enter 9th grade is different. They may be at the language arts level where they need some pretty significant supports. We still have the same curriculum. We have the same resources that we use in our academic course, but we provide a lot more scaffolds, resources, and sometimes personnel to support students. The reality is those students are taking the Keystone exam at the end of their 9th grade experience too. So again, data showing, again, you see about, around, I'd say, for the academic level, 40-ish percentage of the students taking those academic levels, and the rest of the students taking the honors and the AP as you get to 11th and 12th grade.
Dr. P, while you were doing that, I pulled up the 1920 course requests. So again, this is course request data that's tied to our annual staffing process. So in English 9, there were 161 student requests in 2019-20, 180 honors English 9 requests. So just to give a little bit of a, similar to what we're seeing here. 18-19, the year prior to that, we had 169 in English 9. We had 195 in honors English 9. So it holds fairly consistent.
Yep, thank you.
Jump into and add to that, Dr. P's friend. Those numbers for AP 11 and 12 continue to go up as we project into the current school year. That might be something, I don't know, Sean or Dr. P, maybe if you're going there, that would be helpful for the board to see if we could take a look at the charts that are at the bottom of the core text complexity
I
doc.
can't hear Frank, if you could tell.
He's asking to see the charts at the bottom of the core text complexity document. But I think ultimately what Dr. Hernandez is saying is for 25-26, again, we're seeing similar breakdown, more students in honors 9 than English 9. But when we get up to grade 11, as an example, we're seeing 54% of students requesting AP English 11, about 18% honors English 11, and about 26% English 11. So we see 3/4 of students in either honors or AP by the time they get to grade 11. And in grade 12, we see about 30% in English 12, 32% in honors English 12, and 37% in AP English 12. So that combined honors and AP English 12 is about 68% of students selecting that level of rigor. And those AP numbers, the charts that I think Dr. H was referencing, they show a huge increase in the number of students enrolling in AP courses, and to see the achievement results of the AP test, which every student in the course takes at Pine-Richland. Not every district does that, but every student takes that test. The scores are still tremendous, as historically here and as compared to state and global.
Yeah, I'd say it's worth, Sean, pulling up that spreadsheet just as another resource that we provided to the board and community to see the program. So if you go back there, yeah, that's
Just keep going down, Sean.
yeah, so that's grade 9. That's our achievement results.
Go down to
And
grade
then
11.
grade 10, we have nothing listed there. If you scroll then past grade 11, you'll see our AP, and we even put that's the one right there. So increased number of students over the last couple of years that have taken the assessment, proud of that. Average score of a 391 for last year of the 24-25 school year. So obviously those are good positive trends of both more students challenging themselves.
And just for context, a score of a 3 is considered to be college ready by the College Board. So averaging close to a 4 with a significant chunk of those kids hitting a 5 is something to be really proud of for our school district.
Yeah, and now we're looking at the AP 12. So I mean, huge jump here. And Frank, I think you said there was a nice increase again of students that have requested AP 12 for the 25-26 school year.
Almost 37%.
Yeah. So that AP 12 number will jump closer to 130 that we're looking at right now. So from 108 up to 130 for next year. The AP 11 number will jump up to, I think the last time I looked at, 196. So as we're making these type of decisions collaboratively with our teachers, with our administrators, with our team here, we're looking obviously for horizontal curriculum coordination, but the end in mind is something that we're also really paying very close attention to make sure that we're getting students ready for that. So that's just a brag point for our district and the work that the entire team is doing there. And it starts obviously at a very early age, like Dr. P said. So wanted to point that out to you.
Okay, so let's just one last thing, and then we'll completely turn it over to the board. If you can go, Sean, to the grade 9 tab of that same document, just to show how we put this together. Just click the tab and go all the way to grade 9. Okay, so if you read this from top to bottom, again, Language Arts 9, that is an entry-level course into our ELA program at the high school. You see the list of text, core text, and anthologies that are available. This is in our current recommended board-approved curriculum, listed as primary and secondary. Primary is the expectation, if it's listed as primary, that the teachers are going to use that resource with their students. That's a guaranteed part of the integrated into the curriculum. Secondary, there's more of discretion there in terms of the integration of those resources. So if we do, again, go back and do just a slow scroll, if students enter into the language arts, their primary resources are the anthology, My Perspectives, that was just board approved this last May. Really excited about that resource. It has a ton of different text options for our teachers, both fiction and nonfiction, different levels of complexity. Sometimes they have the full novels, sometimes excerpts, short stories, poems. So a ton of resources, both in hard copy and online. So that's the anthology. And then students in this class would read a separate piece. They would read the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. They would read excerpts from the Odyssey. That is coming out of our anthology, so that's embedded in. And then the discretion for the language arts classes is To Kill a Mockingbird and Tale of Two Cities. Like I said earlier, that's identical to English 9. So English 9 has My Perspectives, separate piece, Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, the Odyssey, and then the secondary resources of To Kill a Mockingbird and A Tale of Two Cities. If a student enters 9th grade in the honors level, a lot is the same. What's different, To Kill a Mockingbird is a primary resource at the honors level. Tale of Two Cities and A Tree Grows in Brooklyn are secondary. Again, students in the honors level course, there's an expectation of more independence, more out of class time work. So the pace at which they would get through text is going to be different than at the academic and language arts level, but some opportunities there. And then if you look to the right, you start to see what we asked our teachers to do, which was to take the qualitative measures, and there is a rubric attached to this spreadsheet as well, so you can see how they evaluated. They looked at the text structure, the language features, the meaning, and the knowledge demands, and they had an option to rank from slightly complex all the way to exceedingly complex for each of those different categories. And then on the far right, you see what most people are familiar with in terms of text complexity. You hear the quantitative measure of a lexile. Again, that's an important measure, but what we're saying is to really get a complete picture of a text experience, you should think about the qualitative and quantitative measures. So again, we thought this was just a nice visual for our board and community to get a chance to see of the resources that are supporting the curriculum. Again, not the curriculum, but the resources to support them. And I think that's enough in terms of what we provided, an overview of what we're sharing. We can open it, I think, for the rest of the time, Mrs. Versailles, to questions, comments from the board.
Before your question, I have a technical question. I don't have my printed version of the proposed English 9. How do I link to it? Because I'm not seeing on the agenda.
If you go to board docs on the agenda,
Yep.
and whoever's driving, go back to the agenda and where we have the 4 items.
It's in an attachment too.
It's in the attachment.
It's attachment
Course
number
list?
1.
Then you can
Okay,
click on
and then I
course.
can click on it. Okay,
Right.
sorry, I
On that,
didn't
and then you should be
realize
able to
what
click
that
on any of
was.
the courses you want
I
to
got
see.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. Dr. Pasquinelli, I have a question on Unit 2. So
I can't hear.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. I'm looking at Academic English 9.
Okay.
And I'm looking at what we approved January of '25.
Okay.
Unit 2 has the Odyssey and other poems, and then Unit 2 that you're proposing is excerpts from the Odyssey. Were they excerpts that we approved in January '25? It's not listed.
They
on the
would
second. I'm
have,
just
that is
confused
correct, they
about
would
that.
have been, yes.
They
I don't
were
think we would
excerpt, okay.
be able to get through
Okay,
the
got it.
entire.
Okay, thank you.
One of my questions is what we had approved in January was is dramatically different from what is being proposed now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the January request came, again, this was tied into our core text recommendation of Angel of Greenwood. At that time, the board asked to see, what the curriculum changes would look like if we integrated that core text in. Now, when we did that, we showed the integration, but we didn't actually name the core text we were thinking of, which again was Angel of Greenwood, because we didn't have that resource approved. So if back when we talked through that in January, the curriculum was provided first, that was approved by the board, and then the next motion was Angel, that was not approved. So when we developed the January curriculum, we were thinking about integrating a new core text and trying to show, like we have in our current curriculum, how do our core text integrate into our curriculum. So a unit name and some of the key learning goals or representative learning goals were shown to show that integration. Now, the key thing I think for everyone to understand, the curriculum in terms of the standards, the eligible content, the learning goals, they do not change and have not changed. We lifted out some different representative learning goals to show that alignment of a new core text that we were recommending.
So one of my concerns moving from the January version to this version is it appears from seeing what was approved last July, when it was in 2024, for this past academic school year, to the January version and now to this version, it appears that there is really just one core text that can be covered in Unit 1 in its entirety. And so seeing the January, where we inserted a second book into the mix, I'm concerned that we, one, are removing essentially To Kill a Mockingbird by making it a secondary resource in academic English. And then also we've indicated in January that we can read two books, that we can make accommodations to have two books read. I think it's important that we read more books in our entirety. And so removing To Kill a Mockingbird in addition to walking back the recommendation of two novels is probably my biggest concern for that grade level. And why could we not have continued forward with the approved January curriculum and incorporate one of the books, like To Kill a Mockingbird, into some sort of unit that covers that text and possibly nonfiction as well? Because that book lends itself well to incorporating nonfiction.
I just want to clarify for Dr. P, is that accurate?
Well, I'd say that the January academic was approved in Unit 1 in terms of the core text that is going to be read. It is a separate piece or To Kill a Mockingbird. So both of those books, were not planned to be read. That was more discretionary. We tried to tighten that even further with the current version for the 25-26 school year. And then, again, we showed the integration of Angel of Greenwood, which was linked then to Romeo and Juliet because the teacher saw a nice link between.
No, that's honors, or I'm talking about academic.
Yeah, I'm talking about academic too.
No, I don't think we were linking it to. We were linking it to nonfiction in 9th grade. Academic English.
You're right. We had in academic, we had a separate unit. We had a unit for Romeo and Juliet and a unit for historical fiction. That's where we were thinking about integrating Angel. That's correct, yeah. The honors, correct, was Angel was going to be read outside of the classroom in addition to Romeo and Juliet. That's correct.
The question I was asking, in the 24-25 school year or in the 23-24 school year, was something removed from academic 9? Or did what happened last year, was it the same as the prior year?
Yeah, no, yeah. Nothing changed. I mean,
Yeah,
the same books.
that's all I was asking.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
So I guess the point I was making in July, we're seeing the same amount of time for that unit, Unit 1, which gave a menu in what we approved in 2024 in July that teachers could choose between To Kill a Mockingbird, A Separate Piece, or A Tale of Two Cities. The unit length was 40 days. In what was proposed in January 2025 was a choice between two books. Sorry, let me pull it. A choice between A Separate Piece or To Kill a Mockingbird, same unit, same amount of days. So what that's telling me is during that 40-day period, really, we're recommending, or we know that only one book can be covered. So when it's one or the other. And so now in this version, we've narrowed it down to one book. And so even though moving To Kill a Mockingbird to a secondary resource in reality, doesn't that mean that it's not going to be read because there's really only time for one book
Yeah, I'd say
in that unit
can't-
one?
I can't say that with 100% confidence, knowing that there's discretionary in those secondary resource to integrate those other texts to some degree. I'd want a teacher there to say that it's an absolute no. I mean, we have them listed there to provide some level of discretion and integration with whatever unit is most tightly aligned to the use of those resources. So I can't say like absolutely not, it cannot happen. In the honors level, it is integrated in as a guarantee, To Kill a Mockingbird is. In the academic, the recommendation from the teachers was A Separate Piece is the primary with To Kill a Mockingbird and Tale of Two Cities to be supported as a secondary.
So you don't know how many of the classes this past year read To Kill a Mockingbird in addition to A Separate Piece?
I do not. What was approved in July of 2024 for the 24-25 school year was A Separate Piece, To Kill a Mockingbird, or A Tale of Two Cities. So of those three texts, I do not know which of the three was read in each of the academic 9 courses. I don't know that. I would venture to guess that the majority read A Separate Piece because that is the text that the 9th grade English teachers are recommending to bring forward as the primary resource for the 25-26 school year.
And I would say through their eyes, they're really just trying to get at those representative learning goals using the text, right? So that's the one difference, I think, in approach that we're getting at the learning goals, the students are mastering them. We've kind of shifted in valuing that alignment piece to make sure that we're consistent in what's there. So as we've been trying to produce documents, we're trying to say, this is the one that we're going to depend on the most so that it's very clear in the unit titles. Being listed as a secondary resource still allows it to be pulled in, similar to probably how it could have been in the past as well. We're just being very clear about where things stand by delineating the primary from secondary and then writing the rest of the unit titles. And remember too, we also just got the new text that we're integrating as well, the anthology. So the difference there too in kind of pairing and repackaging the way that things would be taught, same representative learning goals, same content, but we can pull different stories from within the anthology itself.
Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a comment. So what would be helpful to me would be to know how much they are using and reading those primary resources, because that affects how I'm going to vote. I'm concerned that To Kill a Mockingbird is now secondary and may not be read at all. So if that's some information you can get us, are they reading it, how much, which books? That would be helpful, I think, for the board to know.
Yeah, I'd say if whoever again is driving can let's pull up the academic English 9 for the recommended 25-26. Let's look at that just so we're all kind of on the same page.
And just real quick, while we're doing that, the board approved curriculum.
Go to the course list, Sean, that's second tab, and then pick top one, academic 9.
In the June recommendation from the team there was done in an effort to be as transparent and clear as possible that the preference of the English 9 team and the administration is to use A Separate Piece for Unit 1, So I think previously in the past, as like the new team was coming together and we had a variety of resources, we wanted to just be as clear and transparent as possible in our thinking and our recommendation to you that that's what the team would prefer to do with Unit 1. So that's why there has been a little bit of a level of change there from what you would have saw the previous June. And Dr. P, I think, explained pretty well what was going on there in January as well. So if there were some shifting topics there and some shifting novels, that's really why we brought it forward in June, is we wanted to just be as transparent as possible.
And I like that.
Yeah,
I think we're moving in the right direction
Yeah.
by saying, I think I've mentioned it before in these meetings, is that I think as a parent, but also as a board member, I think we should know, and community members, we should know which books. It shouldn't be luck of the draw, regarding your kid's schedule, which books you happen to read. I do think there should be a series of books that we know every kid is reading through our curriculum. So I do think that's a step in the right direction. What I'm uncomfortable with, and I know that there are other comments, is removing To Kill a Mockingbird, because I think that's what it does, is that it removes it for all of our students. And I think that's what we need to have a conversation is, are we comfortable as a board saying that our kids aren't, may not read that at all?
And
So,
we're talking
before we
about
jump in, let me
academic
just-
9. Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear to all. Yeah, right. So honors,
I want to
it's
do that
there.
too. So go back to where you were, Sean, to show go back to exactly where you were at, English 9, and show what's highlighted. And this is back to Mrs. Hillman's question, and to what Dr. Hernandez mentioned. In order to try to, again, we've been talking with our staff a lot about curriculum alignment, instructional time, and assessment feedback. Those have been our areas of focus. In terms of the curriculum, alignment is huge, and we saw opportunities to tighten alignment. This takes it to the next level of alignment. So what this is telling you as a parent and as a board member, that the guaranteed experience, if a child is in academic English 9, academic, regardless of their teacher, they will use the resource My Perspectives, they will read a separate piece, they will read The Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, and they will read excerpts from the Odyssey. That's guaranteed. Some teachers, depending on interest, readiness, or what they see as the need of their children, may integrate To Kill a Mockingbird, The Tale of Two Cities. That's academic. Scroll up or down so I can see Unit 1, or the other way, I'm sorry. Okay, so pause there. So now Unit 1, as a parent or board member, tells me that in the first 40-some days of school, my child's going to be reading a separate piece. Now, it's not just reading, remember, too. They analyze the text, they do a lot of discussions, they do presentations, they do small group discussions. A lot of different things happen besides just reading that text. But that's what's happening within each of the units. And then if you scroll further, Unit 2, you can see where the Odyssey will integrate. So what we've done, in addition to naming the primary and secondary resources in the opening of the board-approved document, we've shown where we see the primary, not secondary, we've shown where we see the primary resources integrate into each of the units. So we're trying to make that as crystal clear for our board and community. And then, Mrs. Hillman, to your point, hopefully that's the answer that you were looking for. It may not be the answer you're looking for or what you're hoping for, but that's where we are in terms of trying to be as clear with the student experience. Now, if you can jump to the honors English 9, Sean, so go back to your, yeah, that's perfect. And then go to the section for primary and secondary. So now look at the difference here. Now we're at students entering in the honors pathway. Same anthology. To Kill a Mockingbird is now moved as a primary. Separate Piece is still a primary. Romeo and Juliet still a primary. Odyssey still primary. Now they have A Tree Grows in Brooklyn as a secondary, in addition to The Tale of Two Cities. And then again, if you'd scroll down and look at the units, you would see that in this first unit, in the honors course, again, remember, different pace of instruction, more expectations for student work outside of the school day, more days in Unit 2, so you see that as well. Both of these books will be used with all students that take the Honors 9 course, regardless of what teacher that you have. Does that help?
Do you have a comment?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So if we were looking again at academic English and To
Go
Kill a
back
Mo-
to that.
If To Kill a Mockingbird were to be incorporated back into the curriculum, is Unit 1 the place for To Kill a Mockingbird? Even as a secondary resource, I guess I'm asking two questions. Even as a secondary resource, is that where it would be incorporated right now with what you're
I would want ELA teacher input on that, exactly where. If we compare it to the honors, again, that would be my assumption that they would integrate To Kill a Mockingbird in Unit 1 through analyzing literature through a novel, similar to how the honors course was designed. And again, can that happen? That can happen. If that happens, then we have to think about what doesn't happen within the academic. And again, we're not trying to modify the resources to the degree that the students aren't going to grow and develop their skills. I mean, every course we want that we call just out of reach learning, where kids have to stretch and grow in order to, to find that level of achievement and growth. We don't want them bored, so we don't want it too easy, and we don't want it too hard that they're frustrated. So we're looking for that right level of stretch. I think our academic or our teachers believe that what they've presented to you is the right sequence of resources to support the curriculum. Could we add that in? We could. That would mean modifying the structure that we have now, and I definitely want to get their input. Unless Frank or Dr. Hernandez, you have something else to add to that.
No, I would just add, Dr. P, when we're looking at all these resources in text, we do have a summer reading requirement for both English 9 and Honors English 9. So in addition to the document that we were displaying earlier that shows the novels that we read over the course of the student's high school career, there is that component to it. I think the last time that I was here and we talked about this topic a little bit, I mentioned a little bit like the hybrid approach that we take, where we're not whole novel and we're not just using a text. So we just you just approved, and our teachers are really excited for the My Perspectives collection series that's coming through. A really good instruction in ELA is integrated, so it's not just reading and it's not just writing. Being able to use both the novels and that My Perspectives resource is something that's going to help our teachers and be very beneficial to student engagement. If I hear correctly, and just listening to Mrs. Brusalis and some others talking, my perspective is there is some desire to have To Kill a Mockingbird as a required text in the curriculum. And what I would just say in response to that is that the team brought forward the best thinking for June with the professional recommendations of the educators. If that's something important, we do value your perspective and recognize the authority and decision lies with the board. I would just say in response, it's something that we would want to work with our teachers, because there's probably likely a way to fit both in. And if there's not, then we would want our teachers to have some time to be able to work through that and determine the best way to fit that in, because the direction we had indicated when we sent everything for June was a separate piece. So just some things I wanted to share from our perspective.
Yeah, and I just wanted to,
Yeah.
to agree. I think there is a way, and I think that was demonstrated in January, where we had 2 books
Yeah.
presented that could be read through those 9th grade school year in the academic English. And back to the discussion and why I wanted to have this discussion is I think there are 3 issues. One, my opinion, more books read cover to cover is better. We've demonstrated that we can fit it into the curriculum, as was evidenced in the January curriculum. And then, To Kill a Mockingbird is an important book. And are we willing to pull that out for it's actually, if you consider language arts, more than a third, but we're just talking about academic 9, a third of our students who, I believe, most of them go off to college as well. And I think there is an expectation that this book is one of the books that is widely read in high school, and we're not offering that to our students.
So I'm just trying to narrow my listening. So are there in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, in those pathways and in the courses, or do we feel, is there comfort? I don't know that we've had questions there. I'm trying to narrow our focus. Do we feel good in most places? The place we don't feel good is academic English 9?
that's probably where I feel most not good. I don't know how everyone else does. I think my questions may have been answered. Dr. Pasquinelli with English 12. When I first saw it, is it still an and or in Macbeth versus Much Ado About Nothing?
No, we spoke to the English 12 teachers. Macbeth is listed as primary, and Much Ado About Nothing is listed as a secondary now.
Okay, so that resolves that question, so I think we're on the same page, at least I am,
So we're
unless others
focused
do.
on academic 9?
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Well, I
mean, I can make a comment on it.
go ahead.
asking a question, Christina? Is that a question for us to answer?
Well, that was his question about
I can't.
Are there
hear.
other, is it academic and honors, I think would be, English 9 would be the issues. Do we want to extend conversation to 10, 11, and 12? My biggest concern with 12 was that and or between Macbeth and Much Ado About Nothing. And sounds like we're all on the same page. Because I think if we have, with the limited time that we have with our students, I think the choices we make and what they read, and I know we have some disagreement between perhaps me and some of our senior leadership on this issue. I think the books that we're choosing, there's knowledge to be had in the books that we're choosing, not just the skills. And so it's important which books that we're choosing, especially when we're considering which of the classics or not to include classics, or which Shakespearean play. I think these are important. Back to Shakespeare, I think we should be covering, in the limited time we have, at least the big four. We've got at least 3 of them in our curriculum, and I think that's a good move to make that the primary resource.
Yeah, I'd have up on the screen that spreadsheet again, Sean, that is kind of the core text, because I think that gives you a nice image of the student experience, to Ms. Brusalis's point. In terms of, take a look at the titles of the text, take a look at, years published. We believe that the classics are an important part of our curriculum. Again, it's, what percentage of that time that we have with students is appropriate. We have shared, again, our thinking in terms of what we believe, because we have a robust anthology that's going to provide many other reading experiences for our students. So with what we're recommending as primary, that includes some of those classical literature pieces, it also allows us to do a lot of different things with a lot of different text. And again, it's engaging students in the reading process, putting different genres in front of them, different time periods, trying to align to other content areas. I mean, there's so much that our teachers are thinking about with making these text selections. Those are things I just think we have to continue to consider as well.
So I have a comment, Dr. Pasquinelli. I've listened attentively to the questions, the answers, and I got to say, Dr. Pasquinelli, you guys have done a very good job of laying this out to try to make it as clear and concise as we possibly can with all the different documents that you've shared with us. So thank you for the effort to do that. That's been very, very helpful for me. Okay.
Thank you for the comment.
Yep. And so, as I go through, and I was thinking, okay, what did we do in January? How did we, what was the proposal and the discussions? And now we're in here into July. And the comment that I caught during this discussion was that there, and I'll try to simplify this, but there was two textbooks that were being introduced at the time, or 2 units that would use the 2 textbooks. And now we have the Unit 1 with a separate piece, but it does not include To Kill a Mockingbird. And I can understand, because you've got 40 days, and in honors you've got 70 days, so I can see how you can cover 2 books. However, in January, there was another unit that had that. And then I go back to Dr. Hernandez's comment, and I appreciate that, because your comment was likely there's a way to fit both in. And I thought, that's really good. That's a really good comment. And so my thought process would be, Kill a Mockingbird, classic, it's been there historically for us. If you can come back with a recommendation to us that fits both in, I think you can get my support on that for sure, 100%. So I appreciate your comments about looking for a way to likely to fit this in. I'd like to hear, comments come back, with your conversations with the teachers and so forth. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, I'd like to share. So, we're not talking about everybody in ninth grade. It's only the academic English, so it's less than half of our students. And we have the Kill a Mockingbird. We have an opinion of a board member or other people that this is an important book, but we also have our teachers who, when they put this together, felt a separate piece was a better book that they wanted to elevate. Okay, it doesn't mean we're ignoring To Kill a Mockingbird. And instead of like redoing everything, is it just something like maybe Dr. Hernandez can speak to English 9 teachers and say like, hey, is there a way we can really, keep To Kill a Mockingbird as a secondary source, but maybe find a way we could get it in, even if it's, a more recreational reading or light reading or something. It's not a whole unit of something, so that we can, I don't want, as a board, I find it to be off-putting as us to go and decide like, it's my opinion and I think this, and my opinion's better than the opinions of the teachers who are teaching this whole year of this subject, which they've done a great job on. So is there some way that we can, perhaps, get that message across that this is an important book? We don't want to necessarily move it up to be a primary resource in English 9, but it, could be something that could get a litit bit more, so it just doesn't get pushed to the back burner and we could find somewhere in the middle.
I'd say, Ms. Turchik, that's kind of where it is now. It's listed as a secondary. There's an opportunity for teachers to use that resource, but what I'm hearing from others is, they want it as a primary for us. As we try to tighten alignment more, I'd want to be more clear and specific with that, to saying that it's a guaranteed experience versus, because I think then we could have some of that level of discrepancy, which in my mind is good and appropriate because it allows teachers to make a determination of what's best for the students in front of them. Mm-hmm. But we want to work with the board and find a way, that makes sense. But we definitely will want to get teachers' input in terms if we're making a modification and moving something that right now is a secondary to the primary level, because for me that becomes assured if we're going to list it there, and that's the message we've been sharing with our staff. And if that becomes primary and everything else stays, then that means there's going to be, changes to the curriculum structure again, and we're going to have to go back to them to make those modifications.
Could I just add a couple more things too? Mr. Morset, appreciate your acknowledgement for the text complexity document up there. Dr. P, Dr. Miller, and the team spent a lot of time on that, and we would agree it's a really good way to look across at the high school level specifically. So Dr. P, thanks for sharing that from vacation down there. We hope you're having a good time. Really appreciate it. Wanted to echo that from the school admin level too.
I'm going to do the rest of my board meetings for the rest of my career in this place.
At the beach.
Yes.
Just I wanted to add a couple more quick things just along the lines of what Mr. Moore said, Mrs. Tarchik were talking about. Just in specific with Unit 1, like doing both novels, my point was that there could be a way to do that. I would not feel comfortable as the principal right now making a change right now saying that we're going to do both in Unit 1, because that takes a lot of time, and there's a lot that needs to happen over this next month as we get close to school starting. There's a lot of teacher vacations, so getting everybody together is a little bit of a logistic challenge, and there's a lot of things that we're thinking about next year in addition to mandating trainings that are things that would take time from being able to make a recommendation like that. I guess a point for me would be, this would be one of the first times that I've heard that we would like to see this text included. And like I mentioned earlier, community input, board member input is really important. So I guess I would go back to what I had mentioned previously. If that is something that's very valuable to you, that's something we would want to go back and work with our team and to look at and evaluate. Unit 1 is nonfiction. Both texts are nonfiction-based text. There's probably opportunities for best practice to include it in there, but that would take some time, and the team was really focused on, as of that June curriculum update to you, that a separate piece is what we have done recently and what we're recommending for next year. So those are just some things that I'm thinking about from the building level, and do appreciate you sharing your input.
Question?
Could you elaborate a little bit more about the summer reading lists and what's required and what's optional? Can you elaborate on the structure of that?
1 second, Mike. Yeah, so in regular level English or honors level English grades or language arts, 9, 10, 11, it's based on student choice. It's all publicly available on our website. The higher a level that you're in, the more text that you're choosing. Our students pick some cool and creative things. They start talking about those summer readings with their teacher from the previous year, and that those teachers help guide the students with things based on what they know about the student and the course that they're going to that could be available. As we get into advanced placement, there are certain texts that the College Board will tell you you have to read X number of these texts, and when the students go to take their AP exam, the essay questions will require them to contextualize and draw examples and analyze across multiple texts.
And so this is a great comment in that To Kill a Mockingbird and some of these texts that are now moving to secondary, which won't be guaranteed reads. All of these books, I believe, are on the AP lists that are out there of books that are recommended to be read, and I think what better way to prepare our ninth graders for eventually, and we know that list is growing, for AP English classes, is to expose them with a teacher to, really getting in depth in a text with a teacher to some of the books that they may need to encounter in the AP literature courses.
But they are reading it in ninth grade honors English.
But again,
are.
why
Yes.
pigeonhole an academic 9 kid who maybe in ninth grade decided they didn't want to do an honors class, but why pigeonhole them into a pathway when they're 14 or 15 years old? They may change their mind. They may, kids do miraculous things from year to year. Why hold a kid back in ninth grade from what they might be in 11th or 12th? I think
Well,
as many
I just wanna be clear.
opportunities as we should have to expose kids to some of the great works in literature, we should be doing it, and having it done alongside a teacher is, I think, the best way to do it.
Just for clarity, though, we encourage pathway shifts as students are ready. So if you enter the academic level, by no means are you, quote, sentenced to the academic level. It is based upon your interest and readiness at that time. That's teacher input, that's assessments, that's parent input. There's a lot that goes into those year in, year out recommendations. So just real quick back to the summer reads. We have modified this process a bit over the years. The biggest takeaway right now is to read over the summer. That's what we want all of our level of kids doing. Obviously, when you get to the AP level for 11 and 12, there's a significant amount of summer work that needs to be accomplished to prepare for that course. At the honors level, there are some recommended reads. Again, a nice variety of classical literature. If you go on our website and look at our summer reading list, they are suggested, they are not required, because it provides the students that what Mrs. Brasalis is talking about, some opportunities to extend their reading repertoire of things that they're interested in. And that's where we want our teachers working with the students late in the year to really say, hey, here's be some great text for you to consider to read over the summer to stretch you a little bit. You may be like a sci-fi kid, but let's try something a little bit different to give you some exposure to some different genres and things like that. So that's where the relationship comes in. That's where the stretch and grow kids comes in, for the summer read. But again, we want kids reading over the summer as much as we can encourage that through this. Our AP kids, they're going to do it because they know they need to be ready for their day one for those AP courses. Everybody else is just read, challenge yourself, find some things of interest, but just keep reading.
A connected point to
Just a
this.
quick comment, Dr. H. So I think the books that are touched upon or referenced through the AP testing in 11 and 12, I've shared with the board previously sort of a historical view of all of those books and how many times they've been referenced in various ways through that test. So if we want that to inform decisions, that's something we should talk about. We have not talked about it in that way. The AP English teachers absolutely do share with their students, these are books that have appeared this many times and this many times and this many times on that. I think for me, we've made progress, I think, tonight. There's a desire by some of the board to assure To Kill a Mockingbird in ninth grade academic and not remove anything else that's also already assured in ninth grade English. That can be done. That's what I think we've heard here. Best done with the teachers, but my comment would be, is the idea of breadth and depth. If we are adding in their entirety pieces, we can cover pieces. Something gives, and teachers will talk about that in terms of their instructional design and courses. And often, the more breadth we're going for, the less depth. So there is a trade-off in terms of what's happening in the English classroom as we cover novels. A more novel, it might lead to decision-making.
So why was
There's a
this-
balance point, and that's just something that we need to listen to the teachers and talk about, because I think the second part is, if this goes in as an assured experience in addition to everything else, what specifically are those areas of adjustment? We would want to know that, right? We would want to know what's the impact, and then be able to hear from the teachers about that.
So, Dr. H., I just have one question on all of this. So this is the curriculum that's set forth for this academic year, and if we were to make this change in ELA 9, or I'm sorry, academic 9, what type of time frame? To me, it's late. There's limited time. So what's the practical side of that, of making those adjustments?
Can we do it? Yes. It would take some time to get together with the teachers. Keep in mind, we're talking Unit 1 here. So right after we get through summer reading, it's the first thing that we get involved with. We'd have to get the department leader together with our administrative team, with our teachers, and talk about what it means instructionally, how we engage, what it means for how we kind of cross over engage with the My Perspective resource. It would take some time, and that's one of the reasons I was just advocating on my end of if that's something that you desire, providing us some time to work collaboratively with our teachers to do that. There's a lot that has to happen outside of that to effectively kick off a school year. I am a little bit nervous about making that change right now and being able to fit all of that in. Can it be done? Yes. It's being able to take out what is in there as the novel and insert another. It's probably not as quite as simple on our end with how it plays out with instruction with students.
Can I just express my frustration with, not you, Dr. Hernandez, but perhaps the process? Because we get this in May, and we have the opportunity to look at it. The first time we're able to discuss it as a board is in June, and then we hit summer, and then when we finally start digging, we pulled it out in June. And when we finally get together to have this conversation, now we're being told that, oh, you can't make any changes. So essentially, our hands are being tied as a board, and much to, there are some people, I think, who don't understand the role of the board. This is the role of the board. Curriculum is a district function. It is not a classroom function. And that we as board members can't have a say is really, I think, problematic. And I think the timeline is tying our hands. And I find that answer, and I'm sorry I'm looking at you, I'm finding that answer very unacceptable, because as a board, then we aren't given a chance to have these conversations and to ask for changes, because we are given this in June is our first time to talk about it, and then we're being told that we can't do anything about it. Just do what we say, board, please.
Yeah. So just to be clear, I didn't say that. So as soon
but the timeline makes it such for us. And so I find the answer that the timeline is tying our hands unacceptable. Then this whole process is a farce. And then we have to back this all up. You need to bring us the changes in January so that we can have real conversations in time, so that we aren't being told that we are doing some disservice. Because ultimately, what matters to me most is that the students get the academic foundations that they need. And mind you, we do a great job at Pine-Richland, but I don't find it acceptable that we're pulling out really important works that my kid, in a couple of years, won't have a chance to read as part of her classroom with the benefit of her teacher.
Yeah, if I could finish, I was going to actually offer a potential solution. So that's what I wanted to do. Okay. I didn't get a chance to finish what I was
Please finish.
leading into. So one of the things I attempted to do earlier in this meeting is clarify that we were specifically focused on academic 9. I was trying to do that to make sure that there are not other questions or issues or concerns out there. And if we have narrowly focused on academic 9, that dramatically changes the scope of what we're talking about. And so even at this moment, I don't have 100% confidence that that's the only place of focus. But if the board feels good about everything else, and we're only looking at academic 9.
And honors 9. I think and we haven't had a chance to talk about it because I am focusing on academic right now, because I think if we make a decision about including To Kill a Mockingbird, I think we have to up the game for honors, that honors should be a step up. And it's my understanding students in honors are reading 3 books or have been traditionally. So I don't understand, but I wanted to focus the conversation around academic 9. So it's not that.
I was just explaining
but-
my thinking. So my thinking was I was trying to narrow the focus of the concern of the board so that we could come up with solutions to solve the concerns of the board. While not ideal, the units are in a sequence. They're in a sequence for a purpose. One of the ways to buy time in order to do the work would be to see if it's possible to sequence Unit 1 differently, meaning you can teach Unit 2 and then potentially Unit 1. What are the implications of that? If that's something that's feasible, then that buys a little bit of time, a unit's worth of time, to get hands wrapped around how to make all of that work. It allows us to accomplish what it is that the majority of the board may be asking for, but to do it in a way that also allows us to kick off the year. If that's in a particular English 9 course, I think we can work through that. If it's a broader or unknown set of courses, that becomes a little bit more difficult to work through. And if we want to, again, later, if we want to change the timeline of things, that's fine as well.
I can't speak for the other board members, but I would be satisfied considering that it was not as big of a problem in English 12, but that's been resolved. I think my focus is on English 9, and if the change is in English 9, then I think we do have to have a conversation about Honors 9. But aside from that, I think that's where my focus is.
I'll go back to the comments I made to Dr. Hernandez and Dr. Miller. Likely, there's a way to fit both in, but something gives, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. But it would be good to get the feedback, right? So I think you're getting some support to say, let's take a look at that and see. And Dr. Miller, your idea is if we shift the unit, what's the impact? What gives, right? And so I think those are good answers, and I welcome you to come back with an answer on that, and I think that would be excellent, and we'll see where we stand.
All right, I just want to get some clarity, just because obviously there's work to do and people to get together. We're requesting in Academic 9 to integrate To Kill a Mockingbird as a primary resource. What's the implications of that? Are we asking for a move in the honors to move another text from a secondary? Because I understand your concern with timeline, Mrs. Brisalis, but at August 11th, we need some level of approval so teachers can start beginning with their syllabi and all the other things that they prepare for the beginning of the school year. Their first day is August 15. So I just want to know, and then the other question I have, just for clarity, so we can prepare our work plan, is the language arts course. Like right now, the language arts course is aligned to the academic course. Are we thinking about that same move of To Kill a Mockingbird from a secondary to a primary in the language arts course? Because that, again, we aligned them before. We just have to think differently a bit about supports and time and text with that course as well. Now, in ninth grade, they have a little more time in that course based upon how that's structured in the master schedule. But those are just, I want to get those clarified before.
I would just,
before we leave.
and I appreciate the clarification ask. There's a smaller percentage of students who are in the language arts course. There is a real need for skill development in a variety of areas. Adding additional breadth is of immediate concern to me in the language arts course. The English 9, again, I think we can work through this as we said, but I'm just answering you, Dr. P, with my 2 cents because we haven't talked about that.
I would agree.
I would be very concerned about that because it's really a skill focus as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree, that would be my rec, I'd as always, welcome teacher input, but I would feel the same way.
I mean, I think the one novel in language arts makes sense because of what that course is.
We would echo that thought at the building level as well. Something to keep in mind with Honors 9, again, going back to the hybrid comment, we do have my perspective, so there's a lot of time and engagement that goes through there as well. So to the point of just upping the rigor, I think there are many tremendous opportunities through that my perspectives to do that with not necessarily adding another text. And I would say maybe one final comment from me would be understand the frustration with the process. Feel really good with the process that's in place in the sense right now that it's brought more transparency, more clarity, and understanding of the texts that are definitely going to be read. And what's publicly available through the process with our board-approved curriculum is really impressive when you think about it for parents to log on and to see. So we do have some pride there. I would say the opportunity, maybe the next step would be able to have these conversations earlier. So I just wanted to echo that.
So let me, if we almost out of time here, or maybe we're beyond, but I just want to take a moment and say thank you to Dr. Hernandez, Dr. Pasquinelli, and the myriad of people who worked to put all of this together and the level of detail and the explanations. So it is appreciated.
Thank you.
There may be differences of opinion, but I do greatly appreciate the effort and the work that went behind this. And I would hope that that is communicated to our English teachers.
Will do.
Okay, I'm going to pause again because I don't want to sign off without knowing for sure. I understand academic 9. I understand language arts. Honors English 9 is the request of the majority of board to make a modifications to Honors English 9.
So Honors English 9, can you tell me which books? I mean, it's my understanding that there are 3 books currently that have traditionally been
Our
read.
recommendation for 25-26 is all students read To Kill a Mockingbird, A Separate Piece, The Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, and excerpts from the Odyssey. That's the honors in addition to my perspectives.
So, but in the past, there have been 3 books, novels, out of the first Unit 1. Let's talk about Unit 1, not Shakespeare. To Kill a Mockingbird, A Separate Piece, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, A Tale of Two Cities were the 4 books that were in the July 2024 curriculum that was approved and used this past year. It was a choice. How many books did teachers read with their students in the honors course? It's my understanding, just from feedback from families, it's 3 were covered in the courses.
Again, I can't, when there is some level of selection, I can't tell you with the level of clarity that you're looking for. I can tell you what we're recommending through what we share here on the screen is those 4 texts will be assured experiences for 25-26, in addition to the My Perspectives anthology, which again, as we've said multiple times, has many other reading opportunities embedded into that series.
So I guess that's my concern, is that if we're requiring an academic To Kill a Mockingbird and A Separate Piece with these changes that we're requesting, do we need to add an extra layer with a 3rd book, which I think from feedback that I've received is being already done, that 3rd book's being incorporated. And then my second question is the approved curriculum from this past year had 35 days in the Romeo and Juliet Unit 2, where it's Romeo and Juliet, and I think this year it was or the Odyssey. It was 35 days. Now we're adding in and the Odyssey. Were they teaching both primarily this past year, and that can be covered completely, or are we adding in definitively now the Odyssey, and why is the number of days not adjusting if you're adding more content? Because the Odyssey is a challenging, I mean, we see it from the teachers, is a more challenging text, even though we're just doing excerpts from it. Why is the time not changed?
Yeah. I don't want to get lost in that question, because I think there were a lot of components in what you just said. My comfort, I don't directly deal with academics. I'm a layer removed in the way our organizational chart works. My comfort, if we're focused on English 9, is high that we can figure it out. The broader the scope, which is why I tried to clarify that earlier, the less comfortable I am that we can manage these changes. The idea of including To Kill a Mockingbird in Academic 9, I think we can work through. I go back to the comment about breadth and depth. So covering it, how deep do you go? What are the instructional decisions that a teacher is making? There's an impact in all of that as they prepare students. It would become the same conversation in Honors English if there's another assured book that's shifted over, if you will, from secondary to primary. And again, it pushes us back into that idea of give and take and depth and breadth and what adjustments are going to be made. We know, and we've talked about, and it's a super positive, we're getting some of the best achievement and growth results of any ninth grade English course on the Keystone Lit exam in the Commonwealth. And so the more we start to do this, the less comfortable I get that we're not being systematic. I think we can address the one issue, but I get concerned about what it means to manage beyond that. And if that is a desire, I would rather it come out of sort of a systematic process as opposed to a reactive one at this point.
So
Other comments?
any other comments? So what decision-making do we have to make? Are we comfortable with the academic 9?
I am. I'm comfortable with looking at To Kill a Mockingbird, incorporating
Adding it back
into that.
in.
When we get to the honors, because I don't know what they're actually reading and we're not able to get an answer, what's actually happening with Unit 1, it's hard for me to make a decision on do we want to change it because I don't know what they're actually reading. Right. So I don't know where to go. with
Yeah,
that.
that's the whole concept of why we tightened the alignment and sharing with you what they will be reading, assured experience. If you look back at the Honors English recommended board-approved curriculum, that's what we're recommending that everyone reads.
Dr. Pasquinelli, is it possible to find out which books were read in ninth grade honors this past year? Were all 3? Were just 2?
I'm sure we could do that.
Okay.
Good.
So are we in agreement on academic 9? I don't know.
Yeah, I've already made my statement
Okay.
on that.
Yeah.
Mark? Okay. So 4.
You know, at this point, given the timeline, and I understand, Christina, your frustration with the timeline, I'm focused on results, and the results seem to be, they're there. I could be content with leaving this curriculum this year if we want to revisit it again next year, but I'm content with what we have before us tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I don't really want to upset the whole apple cart right now, and I feel like we could dig in this in the winter. The results are there. And this is the plan our teachers put together, so I feel like we should respect that, because they have not been respected in other things.
Well, we have, Leslie?
Oh, I know, yeah. I'm sensitive to what that would mean for the teachers if there was to be a change this close to the beginning of the school year, but I would like to see how we could incorporate it in. So I think we just need to have, I don't know, I feel like we need to have more conversations maybe after you've spoken to the teachers, after you've brainstormed a little bit more. that's where I am.
Okay, so we've got 7 board members here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would say with confidence, then we can go and see what that looks like.
Yeah, just see what it looks like. Yeah.
For
I mean,
academic 9.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. And then if we could just, in the meantime, just definitively find out, what did our students read? How many books did honors 9? And if we see how we feel, once we've seen that, I think pick up that conversation if we need to.
If we need to, yeah.
Understood.
I think
I just
yeah,
don't want to
get
lose
the
sight
data.
of what we have planned for them to definitely read this coming school year.
No, I think you've got, just to find the data of the books that they read, I think that's important to know.
Okay. Well, thank you. At this time, we'll go to the public comment portion of the meeting.
Do we want to allow the public comments, or how many are there?
3.
3. Do we want to use them at our next meeting and let them be the first 3 to come up to speak, or do you want to carry this forward? Because we're now at 7:15.
It's up to you all.
Yeah, what would you like to do? What would you like to do? It's up to you. You can do it now if you want, that's fine.
I mean, would we, if those people want to speak twice, they'd still be able to speak twice. So I don't think, I say just get it done and,
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, first speaker is Stacy Coons.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Coons, and I live in Richland Township. I have a rising senior at the high school and a rising 7th grader at the middle school. And I think the conversation, that you had was excellent. I heard a lot of great, appropriate comments. One of them was, I can understand and I agree with how frustrated you can feel, if you feel like you don't have enough time to do something, and if you don't quite, understand something, which is exactly why I wanted to email. In fact, I emailed twice and asked if I could give any input as a high school teacher, as a parent, and my daughter, who's a rising senior, again, asked if she could talk to you and answer any questions, and I received no response. And twice I received no response. And while I certainly understand receiving no response is a very clear response, something that I could have, brought to the table is the fact that a separate piece has been on the AP Literature and Composition exam 3 times in the literary argument question. The last time was in 2013. And also, To Kill a Mockingbird has been on the AP Literature and Composition exam 6 times. Not that many more than a separate piece. The last time To Kill a Mockingbird has been listed on the literary argument on the AP Lit exam was 2019. There are a lot of other books. I'd be happy to show you, where they're listed, or I can certainly tell you. Many other books have been on the AP Lit exam upwards of 15 to, bless you, maybe 20 times. So I feel like, as a stakeholder, as a parent, as a teacher, I care as much as you do, and you clearly care about everything that they're doing. And I feel like it is problematic, and I do feel frustrated that, people in the community offered this and I didn't get a response. I would be very comfortable talking to you. I agree with a lot of what you say, and even if I disagree with some of what you say, I would be very comfortable, having that conversation with you if you're wondering anything. Also, I wanted to make sure that I said that the amount of work that the administration clearly put into this is beautiful and utterly unnecessary. The same time frame in every other school district in Western Pennsylvania is the time frame that you are given. They have so many more important things to do than to do something like this, simply because it seems like you don't trust the teachers here, who are fantastic at what they do, just like the administration is fantastic at what they do. And I wanted to make sure I publicly said that on behalf of the administration and on behalf of the teachers, because they're wonderful. Changing anything with 3 weeks left until the school year starts is deplorable. You cannot do that to teachers. I change my lesson plans, as I'm sure the Pine-Richland teachers change their lesson plans every year. Sometimes it takes me 3 weeks to do a novel unit, and sometimes it takes me 5. It depends on the weather. It depends on the meetings. It depends on everything that is going on. And I see that I ran out of time, and I don't want to hold anybody up. So thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate all of the work that all of you are doing.
Our next speaker is Brittany Kindersmith.
Sorry, I think the regular glasses on, so I don't look like I'm trying to view. The lights are so awful. Sunglasses inside are great for that. Hi, Brittany Kindersmith, Richland Township. I came in with one thing to say, and I don't think like most of the time when I'm up here it was going to matter anyway, so I'll just toss that out of here. I wanted to say that I appreciated the generally respectful dialogue this evening, like from the board and the administration and Dr. Hernandez. It's nice to sit through a meeting where people disagree, but people are not yelling at each other. So that was nice. I also wanted to say that I support the curriculum that the staff worked a long time to put together, and worked to put together after they had already worked a long time to put together a curriculum that they were unable to execute because of their refusal to secure Angel of Greenwood for the curriculum. So when you talk about how you've only seen this now in May, you were given a part of this in January. Your choices as a board led them to need to make changes, which you're now seeing, and like Ms. Coons pointed out, who knows better than I do, this is the same timeline that everyone else is dealing with. So what is it that's different here that makes it tough to get it done? I don't know what the answer to that is with certainty. You guys can reflect on that, I guess, and your lack of efficiency, I suppose. Like Ms. Turchek said, upsetting the entire thing because of the opinion of the board about one specific text this late in the game does feel unnecessary. It does feel like just another hit to our staff, and I feel like they've taken a lot of hits this year, or well, now we're in a new year, this last year. I don't want more of them to leave. So I would love it if you guys would just trust them to do their jobs so that they want to stay here and teach my kids and some of your kids. Yeah, like they're good at what they do. That's like Mr. Wheathorn said, the results are there. So we can just trust that they know how to get those results, I think. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Mike Barber.
What's happening, Pine-Richland? Mike Barber here, Richland Road. I just had a few thoughts while I watched the meeting. Ms. Miller, I appreciate that question about for clarity for that summer reading list. I also didn't understand it, so thank you. Mr. Wythorn, I appreciate your acknowledgement of the timeline. We're up against the wall, and we're trying to expect these teachers to jam in a whole new book and as a primary resource. We've been at this for how long? Years now, and at no point did Ms. Brusalis, Region 2 representative that is up for election and should be voted out, ABC, anyone but Christina. At no point did she say that she wanted To Kill a Mockingbird to be a primary text. At no point. If Mr. Kashani had said this, I would have no problem. He has stated from the very beginning he had a problem with the rubric, and through one-on-one discussions, because he's willing to have discussions, he made it clear that he likes to prioritize classics. So if he said at any point, including tonight, that he wanted To Kill a Mockingbird to be a primary resource, boom, understood, not a surprise. Dr. Miller should have had that understanding and not been caught off guard. But for Ms. Brusalis to state that tonight is just completely rocking the ship. We have got to vote her out. A, B, C, anyone but Christina. I am supporting, as my shirt says, let me make sure it gets on. Caffardi. Amy Caffardi is who I'm voting for, and Melissa Vecchi. A, B, C, anyone but Christina.
That's the last speaker.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Okay, does everybody?
Yes.